or Issachar. Thanks for joining us. You're with the IDSF. Tell us about the IDSF and why you feel it's so important right now.
Yeah, good to be with you, Chris. Our mission is really to think about Israel's national security interests, not for the next 5 minutes, but the next 5 generations. That's really what we do. So our edge or added value would be our host of generals, retired and reserve generals from the IDF, Mossad Shin Bet police, together with 40,000 Israelis who joined the movement. They genuinely believe, like myself, I'm not a big shot general, but I came from the military and security industry, and I firmly believe in Israel's right to self-defense and how we make sure that Israel thrives for generations. That's through the education system by founding a pre-military program of our own, and through the speaking in high schools and giving policy papers and advice to decision makers in Israel and abroad. All this combined, media, social media, we became sort of a powerhouse of Israel's right to self-defense.
Mm-hmm. Talking about self-defense. Right now, the Trump administration is negotiating with Iran over their nuclear program. Do you have concerns about this?
I do, but I think we need to give the president a chance. Look, I learned Farsi. I've been studying Iran for several years now. They're very good at what they're doing. They understand very well that confronting the president is far less productive than sort of sweet-talking him into a bad deal. That's really the danger, the sort of the sweet talk of Iran, taking out of the bazaar, merchant, haggling skills. And they know what they're doing. So basically, they're trying to do 3 things. They're trying to convince the president that a bad deal is actually a good deal, sort of not really dismantling the nuclear deal, but giving vague promises. Number 2, they're offering business opportunities. What do you know? Like, let's, doubling down and saying, you know what, let's construct 19 new nuclear power plants in Iran, sort of making the president face a dilemma. And number 3, trying to create daylight between Israel and the United States. They recognize that Israel is the main roadblock to a deal or a bad deal. Mm-hmm. And they sort of try to accuse Israel for holding back the deal. My fear is that either 2 happens. Either a bad deal and sort of the anti-neocons in Washington, so to speak, will tempt the president into signing a bad deal, or Iran simply fudges the time, buys time. It's a delay tactic. It's a well-known strategy, and sort of clutches nuclear bombs under the radar in secret. That's my main concern.
You talked about number 2, about 19 nuclear reactors in
That's what Arakshi said, and the foreign minister said, you know what, I mean, this could be, billions of dollars were up for grabs for American companies. Why not? And I think he's trying to sort of laud or allude to the sort of business background of the president. Mm-hmm. I don't think the president is that naive, and I think he's disillusioned by Iran's sort of malign activity. He saw how they tried to take his own life, and he knows very well he was one of the main opponents of the original JCPOA deal by Obama. So it remains to be seen, but I think that he needs to lead a hard line against Iran, demand accountability, and if they fail to do so, then yes, military action is very much on the table.
So while these negotiations are going on, what position does that, or dilemma does that give for Israel?
So Israel is currently facing a dilemma whether or not to sort of back up the efforts of the president into signing a deal, and I do believe that Israel will have to face the reality of it, which is the president wants a deal, but he doesn't rule out military action. We cannot compromise on Iran's nuclear program. They have to absolutely demolish it. Otherwise, there is a big shadow hovering over the Middle East. They stated, openly, that they intend to destroy Israel, and they say it on a weekly basis, and they act upon the promise. I don't think we can risk it. So Israel is facing either one of 2 choices. Either we lead a military action and sort of update the president, but I think with this president it will be far more complicated. We need to keep good relations. Or we sort of, provide backup to the president's efforts, but in a way that will ensure the complete dismantlement of the nuclear program. This is not something you can compromise on. It's like sort of an arbitrary debate. They threaten to destroy Israel with a whole host of nuclear weapons. So that's not something that Israel can compromise on.
Mm-hmm. And the Prime Minister wants the Libyan model, where all of the reactors, centrifuges would be destroyed.
You know, that's interesting because the Iranians are amazing at haggling, and even the Iranian government spokeswoman said, we want to manage the narrative, her words, right? So disinformation is some sort of considered to be a bad word in today's day and age, and I'd like to think of it as narrative engineering. They try to control the narrative, and they say, look, Israel is trying to offer the Libyan model, is trying to sort of pull you away from peace talks with Iran, trying to prevent you from this amazing signature diplomatic achievement. Come to us, build nuclear power plants, and let's sign a deal that will be reasonable for both sides. It doesn't work like that. You cannot negotiate with terrorists the dismantlement of their own weapons. You can negotiate with them, only to find out that in the end of the day, they don't intend to dismantle the nuclear program. They want to control the Middle East, and becoming nuclear is their instrument to achieve that end.
How do you see the Middle East right now in terms of, you have, since October 7th, how would you define what has happened since October 7th?
Tectonic shift. Absolutely, full stop. I mean, we saw how the war changed the way people see and feel, the regional architecture, security architecture. The Middle East air defense has proven very much on the table with the Iranian attack, sort of Arab countries providing intelligence to U.S. CENTCOM against Iranian missile attacks on Israel and on them. So I am optimistic about the Abraham Accords, about normalization with Saudi Arabia, maybe even normalization with Lebanon, possibly with Syria. These things were unheard of. So I think it's sort of reshuffling the cards and presenting us with novel ways to look at the region, reach out to the Druze and Kurd minorities, create a network of alliances between Israel and the pragmatic Arab world. But there is one caveat to this, which is the Iranian nuclear program. You cannot have nuclear weapons in Iran. The one reason why they're not going to full peace with Israel, yes, they want some concessions on the Palestinian front. We can talk about it. Definitely not a Palestinian state, but we can talk about concessions. With Iran, it's a no-go zone. You need to destroy your nuclear program. Otherwise, we can all start counting the minutes.
With the fall of the Assad regime and the rise of the new regime right there, many people are concerned not only of that, but also the rise of Turkey and its influence on Syria and its threats against Israel.
Right. So Syria cannot become a Turkish sphere of influence, much like it used to be an Iranian sphere of influence. And I think in that regard, we should look at the rebels, or I should say those who rebelled, past tense, now they are in power, HDS, and realize that they actually are a wolf in sheep clothing, yes, but they do have interests. So I think the West can work with them, but they need to show much more sobriety about it. They want to bring back all the Syrian refugees back to Syria. That's great. Israel wants to maintain some sort of a cold ceasefire with the Issachar. That's fine. Let's not drag us all into war deliberately. I don't think Issachar wants that. Number two, the Druze community should definitely very much be on the table, and they're close with Israel. The fact that Netanyahu and Israel say whoever hurts the Druze hurts us, that's amazing progress. And number three, Turkey, as you said, they cannot become the new landlords in the Middle East. They've shown quite a bit of a tough rhetoric. I think Israel and Turkey should have some sort of a modus vivendi, learn how to live together. It's not really Israel's fault. It's Erdogan's hardline rhetoric. Netanyahu is a Hitler. I'm going to invade Gaza and so on. Let's avoid this scenario and sort of ease and moderate the Turkish influence in Syria while building new regional alliances.
Talking about Iran again, how fragile is the regime, and how strong is any opposition against them? And could an attack on the nuclear sites actually lead to the fall of the regime?
Look, I cannot predict the future, but let's not even live in fantasy world. I don't think the regime is in any danger right now. Anything can happen. We learned that from October 7. My understanding is that the regime is very much stable, and nuclear weapons are the means for it to maintain power. What Israel and the West, the United States, need to do is sort of disconnect the direct link between nuclear weapons and the survival of the regime. They need to learn. If they want to maintain the stability of the regime, they need to throw out the nuclear program. The nuclear program for them is an instrument to maintain the regime. I can see there's opposition in Iran. I can see that Iranian exiles sort of are very vocal in Western media and so on. It's a nation of 90 million people. It's half the size of Europe. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, but I do think that the regime is very much stressed about that eventuality. And I don't know if that's a strategic goal for Israel or the West, topple the regime. I think we should really be aware of that. Simply deny them the capability. That's all. No nuclear weapons, no missile program.
Yeah. Any other thoughts, Or?
Well, I think we're facing really exciting times right now in the Middle East because the war is kind of a litmus test, sort of surfaced all those who are anti-Semitic on the one hand or sort of anti-Israel activists, and the real interests of the region, Saudi Arabia, all those countries who are much more programmatic than what we'd like to think. And right now we can create interconnectivity in the Middle East. We can create really an alliance of peace-seeking nations interest-based coalition with the United States, Israel, and the pragmatic Arab world. This is where we should be heading, based on energy and on peace deals and on trade and trade routes, the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. All these things can really work to our benefit. I hope we can make it happen.
Hope so too. Or Issachar, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.